All right, so you'll see these four headings on the note sheet. One says positive slope, negative slope, zero slope, and the last one says no slope, but we're going to actually put undefined there because we actually use the word undefined. So when I get to that particular tab, I will just tell you to put undefined, okay? So when we talk about slope, we're referring to linear equations, and linear equations are lines. So we're going to talk about how do you know if a slope is positive? How do you know if it's negative? You can actually look at different lines and tell if they're going in a positive direction or a negative direction. So what I'm going to have you do is to punch this into your y equals key so you can actually get a good visual of what a positive slope looks like. So and you don't need to write +0. Just put in the first y sub 1, put in 3x, and then the y sub 2, put in 3x plus 2, and then 3x plus 5, and hit graph. So once you put in these three and you hit graph, you will notice that they are all going, are they going to the right or to the left? All right, so they should all be going in this direction. Is that a true statement? Okay. So you're going to see when we do negative slopes, it's just going to be the opposite. They're going to be going to the left. So just by knowing or looking, that is, at the lines, you can tell whether the line has a positive slope or not. Okay. This number right here that is in front of the X is your slope number. How many of you actually did do a little bit with slope last year, like using the slope formula? Okay, wonderful. Okay, so that means, you guys, this will be an easy lesson for you. So this number right here is your slope. And see, they were all positive 3s. Okay, this number right here, just so you'll know, and some of you probably know this from last year, does anybody know what this number is called? The one that does not have a variable beside it? Yes. It's the y-intercept. Very good. And when there is no number, it's like a 0. Okay, so very good. All right, so you guys have a little bit of background knowledge on slope. That's great. So have you heard of rise over run? How many people have heard of rise over run? Very good. So rise over run means you can take any 2 points on the line, connect them together, and the number that's on the side here would be the rise number, and this number would be the run. So we call it rise over run. So just think, you cannot run before you stand up, okay? Because we can't just run sitting down. I mean, you can move your feet, but you aren't going anywhere. All right, so think of the side part when you make that right triangle with the 2 points. Okay, that vertical part is the rise, so that's like you're standing up. And then the flat surface, the flat part is your run, because now you're running on the ground. So you're going to count those, and you just start, you can start from the point and go to the quarter, and you count 1, 2, 3, 4. So that rise number on the side is 4. And then you start again, 1, 2, just count across. The run number is 2. Oh, sorry about that. So that's how we get these numbers right here. And you do want to reduce your number, so just don't leave it as 4 over 2. Even though by definition, slope is the ratio of the rise to run, so we normally have 2 numbers, but it's understood when you don't see the number, there's an invisible 1. Okay? So that's great. You guys have some knowledge on that. Now, let's do this. So now we're going to use the formula, because there's also a slope formula. The slope formula begins with the letter M. And then you notice that we assign the points coordinates, that is x1, y1, x2, y2. So technically, like whatever your first set of points are, we call them your 1s. The second set of points, we call them your 2s. Okay. Then we use the slope formula. Formulas are great because you can just put the numbers in their proper places. It tells you where everything belongs, and then just add or subtract. So here's the formula. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. That is the slope formula. And we just follow it, just like following directions. We have assigned which ones are our 1s and 2s, so we follow that. We're going to say m equals, and I go over here, I see y sub 2 is assigned as -1. Follow the formula, minus my y sub 1 is 2. Okay, then I go down to the bottom and I take my x sub 2 number, which is 4, minus my x sub 1 number, which is 5. Okay, very easy formula to follow. You assign your 1s and 2s, and then you just put those numbers where they belong. So what is -1 minus 2? All right, -3. And what is 4 minus 5? But a negative divided by a negative is a what? So we just leave that as +3. Okay. Please don't leave it as -3 over -1. You got to say a negative divided by a negative is a positive. All right. Very easy formula to use. All right. Let's go to the next one. So negative slope. So now I want you to do the same thing we did when we did positive slopes. I want you to do y equals -3x. And then y sub 2 would be like -3x plus 2. And -3x plus 5. So when you graph that on the calculator, you're going to see that you have your negative slopes are going in this direction. So you're going to be looking at lines, when you look at a line now, it's just not going to be a line, because you'll be able to say, okay, oh, that line has a negative slope. It's going up to the left. That line has a positive slope because it's going up to the right. All right. So when you hit graph, they should be going to the left. All right, so we're going to do another rise over run. Okay, so again, these are not connected for you, so go ahead and make your right triangle. And it doesn't really matter if you make the right triangle above the line or below the line. It really doesn't matter. So this is going in a negative direction. So we're going to do the rise over run again. Okay, and I probably should have said m equals first. And then we're going to count going down. 1, 2, 3. So that's like down is -3. And then going across to the right, that's going to be a positive what? 2. So that's -3/2. Okay. So now some people, still like to use the slope formula. So if you really wanted to still use the slope formula for this, you could. You could just read the coordinate. Like this coordinate is 0, 2. And this coordinate is what? 2, -1. So let's say, I'm not all that great with rise over run, but I definitely know how to use the slope formula. You could actually just read these coordinates and do your x1, y1, x2, y2, and place it in the slope formula. Okay. All right, so now let's do it algebraically. So that means using the formula. So I'm going to first do this. Put my x1, y1, x2, y2. And then I'm just going to follow directions and make sure I put everything in the right place. So my y2 is -4. My y1 is -6. My x sub 2 is 5, and my x sub 1 is 0. So -4 minus 6 is -10, divided by 5, and I'm going to reduce that to -2. Is a horizontal line. These are for horizontal lines. And I'm going to put all. These are for all horizontal lines will always have a slope of 0. All horizontal lines. okay, will have a slope of 0. So I usually tell students, look, see these O's when we spell horizontal? Okay, that stands for 0 for the slope. All right, because when we spell vertical, you don't have any zeros. And usually students get vertical and horizontal slopes mixed up. So this is the one has a slope of 0. So notice that you can't even, you can't connect them as a right triangle. And then we're going to work it out algebraically so you can see why the slope, it comes out to be 0. So you don't need to write this down again. So here we go. So let's work it out. So let's see why it comes out to be 0. Oh, sorry, I should say x1, y1, x2, y2. Now, what do you notice first about the coordinates? Can anybody recognize anything about the coordinates? Yes. Exactly. Y coordinates are the same. Please take note, because you're going to need to know that in a second. So for all horizontal lines, the y coordinates will always be the same. All right, and you're going to need to apply that later. So I want you to make sure you write that down. So now let's just go ahead and find the slope. So I always start off by writing the formula, okay, because it helps me to know where to place the numbers. So I'm going to put it on this side. So y sub 2 is 4. Y sub 1 is 4. So 4 minus 4, because I'm using the minus that's in the formula, over x sub 2 is negative 3 minus 0. So when I do this, I'm going to get 0 divided by negative 3. And when you do that on your calculator, you do get 0. That's the answer. Okay, it equals to 0. So when 0 is in the numerator and there's another number in the denominator, it always equals to 0. All right, let's move on to vertical lines. So I want you to put undefined for vertical lines. So we actually don't say no slope. Okay, this is actually what we don't use that. We use undefined slope. All right, we use the word undefined. So you don't need to do any work for this. You just, when you see a vertical line, it doesn't matter which points you choose, it's going to be what we call undefined, and we're going to go over why we call it undefined when we work it out algebraically, okay, which is the next example. Here it is right here. Now you notice the x's are equal. Okay, so put x's are equal. So for vertical lines, and this is for vertical lines, the x values will be the same, okay? And notice in the formula, the x values are at the bottom. So if they're the same, you're always going to be subtracting the number from itself, and that's undefined. You cannot have 0 in the denominator. If you did this on the calculator, this is what you're going to get, an error message. If you actually put negative 4 divided by 0 on your calculator, it's going to say error, which means it's undefined. You cannot have 0 in the denominator. You can have 0 in the numerator, it equals to 0. But once it's in the denominator, it's undefined. We say you cannot divide by 0. Okay, that means it cannot be in the denominator. Okay. So obviously, like I said, I already talked about your homework is on MathSpace. So we're in our new packets now. And I want you to go to this page here, which is page 2. I really don't think you're going to have enough space to do the work in page 2 because it's a longer process. So on this page here, you're looking for something different. You're not trying to find the slope. You're trying to find the missing coordinate. Notice they already give us the slope answer, but they don't give us all 4 coordinates. You're going to be missing one of them. Like here, I'm missing the x sub 1. Here, I'm missing the y sub 2. Okay, so you're missing a coordinate. So we're going to go over how do you find the missing coordinate. Okay, so go ahead and put the slope formula in your spiral. I really don't think you're going to have enough space, guys, unless you write very, very tiny. And I can assure you, you will have one of these on your homework assignment tonight, okay, in math space. So I would suggest that you give yourself enough space and put it in your spiral notebook so you will have good examples to go by. All right, because I'm going to do at least 3 examples on this page. All right. All right. So we're still going to identify our x1, y1, x2, y2. So go ahead and do that. x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, you still need to do that part. And then I'm going to refer to my slope formula right here, and I'm going to follow it. This is m, and this time we have m, so put m above that, okay, because that's the slope is your m. Okay, m represents the slope. So I do know the slope this time is -7/9. I'm just following it up here, equals. Then I'm going to put in my y sub 2 number, which is 1, minus 8. Okay, that's my y2 minus y1. My x2 minus x of 1 would be 3 minus x. All right, so I got it all set up. And now I can actually say or simplify 1 minus 8. Okay, what is 1 minus 8? All right, so I'm just going to continue down here. So I'll be writing over this. I'll erase it later. So -7/3 minus x. So that's what you should have next. Now this should look very similar to something you saw on our Unit 2 test, a proportion. And how do we solve proportions? By cross multiplying. Okay, so this is how we're applying something that we already learned how to do, which is solving proportions. So now when I cross and multiply, you got to be careful. This is my equal sign. When I cross and multiply, and this is a -7, because you always take it with your numerator, you're going to multiply that -7 by everything at the bottom. So -7 times 3 is -21. -7 times -x is a positive 7x. So you got to make sure you pay close attention to the signs. Then I'm going to cross the other way. What is 9 times -7? -63. Very good. And see, from there, you got a nice equation. Okay, because once you cross multiply, you have a nice equation. And then just go ahead and solve the equation. We're going to add 21 to both sides. So that's going to give me 7x equals -42. Divide by 7. So x equals -6. So that is the missing coordinate, -6. So looking at question number 11, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to start with our slope, which is -2/5. We're going to assign x1, y1, x2, y2. Guys, it's always really a good idea to put those x1, y1s above those coordinates so you can make sure you're choosing the right one. So my y sub 2 is -3 minus y over x sub 2, -9, but minus a -4 is going to be what? What's minus a -4? +4. Okay, so I can simplify this part here. So I'm going to bring it down as -2/5 equals -3 minus y. And what is -4 plus 5? Okay, so now let's cross multiply. So let's cross this way first. So what is a -2 times a -5? A positive 10. And then let's cross this way. I got to distribute. What is 5 times -3? -15. And 5 times -y would be -5y. We're going to add 15 to both sides. and solve it. That's it. So that's going to give me 25 equals negative 5y. Divide by negative 5. I need to move all of this out the way. So what's my value for y? Very good. All right, does that seem pretty doable? Okay, it's just really putting everything in the right places and then cross multiply. But make sure you simplify like your numbers that you can simplify, like we did this here at the bottom. Just simplify that and then cross multiply. Now, take a look at this one here, 14. We can't put like undefined, the actual words, into an equation. So, but undefined means that this is a vertical line. Is that correct? Remember we just talked about that? So this is a vertical line. So if it's vertical, we said, which coordinates did we say were the same if it was a vertical line? I had you guys write it down. The x's or the y's? The x's. So good. This is no work to do. If this x is 3, what is this x? That's why I said you're going to need to know that for later. Okay? Because they have to be the same number if it's a vertical line. So let's do one if, let's say they gave you this. So let's add 15 here. So let's say they gave you this 1, 2, and then they said 3, and then you didn't know this one. But they do tell you the slope equals 0. So now what type of line is this? A horizontal line, okay? Because how do I know it's a horizontal line? Because they tell me the slope is 0. Which coordinates did we say were the same if it's a horizontal line? The y coordinates are the same. So there's no work to do except for to say y equals 2. That's it. Okay, so for vertical and horizontal lines, when the coordinates are missing, there's really no work to do except for look to see what that same coordinate is for that particular line. Okay, so here, this is 2, this has to be 2. Okay, are we together? All right. Now, so what you guys will do, for those of you who are going to be working on the other assignment, I'm going to go back to the agenda. So we just finished the notes. There is a slope bingo that we're going to start on Blackboard. There are several questions, so you won't have time to finish probably in class, but at least do as many as you can, because next class we'll actually play the bingo game. But I will give you more time to finish this in class before we actually play bingo, all right? The only thing you have to do for homework is the math space. So this bingo does not become homework, it's strictly classwork today. All right.